Hamas was preparing a second massive attack on Israel. Hamas militants were preparing for a second phase of a massive attack on Israel to ignite a wider conflict, cause a crisis in the region and sever Israel's ties with Arab countries, The Washington Post reported, citing multiple intelligence sources. A senior Israeli official, who spoke on condition of anonymity about the classified intelligence, said bluntly, "They were planning a second phase, including in major Israeli cities and military bases." Evidence gathered since October 7 suggests Hamas has envisioned deeper attacks to provoke a war with Israel. Some militants carried enough food, ammunition and equipment to last several days, officials said. They also had instructions to continue their offensive deep into Israel if the first wave of attacks were successful, and potentially strike major Israeli cities. Hamas assault teams managed to penetrate as far as the Israeli town of Ofakim, 15 miles from the Gaza Strip and about half the distance between the enclave and the West Bank. According to two senior Middle East intelligence officials and a former U.S. official who reviewed the evidence in detail, one of the units carried intelligence information and maps indicating an intention to continue the assault as far as the West Bank border. According to analysts, Hamas had carefully planned and prepared for the massacre of Israeli civilians on such a scale as to provoke the Israeli government into sending troops into Gaza. Such actions were intended to launch a new wave of violent Palestinian resistance in the region and derail efforts to normalize relations between Israel and Arab countries. According to intelligence officials, planning for the historic attack on Israel had been ongoing for more than a year prior to the events of October 7. Hamas officials made every effort to conceal preparations, even as individual leaders occasionally hinted at their intentions. Hamas conducted ground and underground military exercises throughout the Gaza Strip. Intelligence reports said Hamas fighters trained with imported Alaska 47 assault rifles, pistols, rocket-propelled grenades and thermobaric shells. Western and Middle Eastern intelligence officials said they scrutinized populated areas and military bases during the training to create a matrix of potential targets. To obtain detailed intelligence, Hamas used cheap drones to create maps of Israeli towns and military installations within a few kilometers of the fence between the Gaza Strip and Israel. The militants obtained additional information from people who traveled to Israel for work. Hamas even monitored Israeli websites, studied real estate photos and social media postings to get an idea of life in kibbutzim, building layouts and homes. It is reported that only a narrow circle of elite military planners knew the exact plans for how and where Hamas hit squads would attack. Critical details may have been concealed even from Hamas's political leadership and the group's main supporters, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Lebanon-based militant group Hezbollah. While the militants were preparing the attack, other members of the Hamas leadership were busy spreading disinformation. Israel believes the chief architect of the plan was Hamas military leader Yahya Sinwar, who spent 2 decades in Israeli prisons, is fluent in Hebrew, and has studied Israeli political culture and media. Armed with an extremely deep understanding of the prevailing political currents in Israel, he and other Hamas leaders began to send subtle signals in recent years, hinting at Hamas's new pragmatic approach and convincing Israelis of what they wanted to hear, that Hamas did not want more wars. Bluntly stated former Israeli National Security Council Deputy Chairman Eran Etzion. They deceived Israel on a strategic level, using handheld radios, land wire networks in tunnels and other means of communication that we couldn't listen in on, as well as continuing coded communication on so-called open networks that they knew we were listening in on. They were creating an alternate reality.
Please like and subscribe to our channel to be the first to know all the important news.